Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history. And I'm out here with Mr. Cecil Young, grave finder extraordinaire, and we are back in the ghost community of Baughville, which used to be a thriving community here in Talbot County, Georgia. But it was largely blown away by a tornado in 1875. And then some people rebuilt, others left. And when the railroad came through, everyone moved to Waverly Hall, Georgia. And today, this is our second attempt to find the Baugh Cemetery, the old Baugh family cemetery, who the community was named for. And Cecil and I are out here looking for it today, but we're standing in part of a modern, what year did this tornado came through? Is it like 5 years ago, something like that? 5 years ago. So this was a tornado from 5 years ago that came, and you can see its path through here under all these fallen trees. And I think it's just so interesting to see this this tornado damage here today, and think back about the tornado that destroyed this community and several others around here back in 1875. And hopefully these trees aren't hiding the grave that we're looking for. As I told you on the last video, this cemetery has been lost for many, many years. The last real documented account that we can find of it is from the 1970s and gives very poor directions to it. But hopefully we can find it today. Find Nathan Baugh. Cecil's using, he's used old maps. We've both gotten together and kind of discussed where things used to be and read old accounts of where the cemetery used to be, describing walking up a hill behind the old Baugh store, and it was across from the old Baugh home place, which is just about where we're at. But again, it's looking for a needle in a haystack. We have a picture of the cemetery from the 1970s that shows it. It shows the headstone of Nathan Baugh, and it looks like it was almost covered up then. It looks like it was almost covered up then, and then the last burial here was an unmarked burial in 1919. The cemetery is described as having a low rock wall around it, and unfortunately the headstones are flat on it, so they could very easily be buried under leaves. It looked like back in the 1970s pictures that there was about 3 inches of dirt on top of the grave then. So we are still on the hunt again for Nathan Baugh, but I did find a clue right here. This is stabbed into the ground right here. And I believe this is an old wagon axle right here. So very interesting. Could just be being used as a property marker, because there is a fenced acre that's nearby here that isn't included in this big piece of property where we think Nathan Baugh's grave is. Now, if you remember from the last video, Nathan Baugh was actually a manufacturer of buggies and wagons. And his shop was somewhere back that way before it was destroyed by the tornado. So to find something like this, that, I mean, you know, if this is a wagon axle, like I think it is, pretty sure it is, this is probably something Nathan Baugh had his hands on right here. And was it placed here marking that a cemetery was nearby, or just a property line? I don't know. So I feel as though we're right on it. We are kind of in the fenced acre, but not exactly. But look, there's some more kind of evidence of stuff being here from long ago. This is an old trifoliate orange tree, and this is a pretty old one. They're invasive in some parts, or considered invasive, but down around here, I've seen them be, you know, 100 years old and this size. But these were often planted around old antebellum era home sites. And we know we're behind the store. We're behind two stores. The old Baugh shop and the post office was supposed to be located here, and the cemetery was supposed to be behind the old Baugh shop. There's lots of its offspring on the ground too, but I think that tree's been here for quite some time. But if you've ever been looking for something and just had a gut feeling that it should be like right here, this is one of those times. Here's another clue of something. Up on the hill behind where the old Baugh shop used to be, there's nothing. But down below that hill, on the backside, is all of this old field stone that's been pushed up here. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything because there were lots of stuff going on here from the Baugh shop, the post office, plantations. So it could just be from an old home site that was later bulldozed and pushed up here. But because we're in the right location, a little bit of fear is this is what's remaining of the Baugh cemetery, and that it even could have been destroyed at some time. Don't know that for a fact, of course. The Baugh cemetery is described as having a low rock wall around it, and it's just got flat headstones inside of it. It would be nearly impossible to see. Now this is just a few field stones piled here, an old dead cedar tree, and an old living oak tree. So I'm back in the land of the wisteria overgrowth at the moment, kind of where we were earlier, where I found the buggy axle and the old trifoliate orange. This is the fenced acre, the fenced acre was written about in 1977 as being where the old post office was, and the Baugh shop was supposed to be beside it. And to repeat myself for the 100th time, the grave was supposed to be behind the Baugh shop. The wisteria has escaped the fenced acre and is over here on this property. And if anyone knows, it's me, that wisteria can eat something and totally hide it. I had an old brick pad on my property that was completely covered by wisteria, and I had no idea it was there until I was walking around with the soil probe with Brandon from Adventure Archaeology, and we were tapping the ground, and he hit and discovered the brick pad. So if the gravesite is in this mess, we won't easily be able to find it at all. I know exactly where the Baugh shop was. I know exactly where the old Baugh home was. The shop was across the street, so I've got a pretty good idea of where that was. We know where the fenced acre is because it remains a separate acre, actually 1.66 acres to be exact. So, as it's written, it should be right through here. The author of the Rockaway book talked about walking up a hill behind the site of the Baugh shop to the Baugh cemetery. This is all uphill. We've been all throughout this area. No luck. This grave has been lost or was last seen 50 years ago. And in the old picture of it, it looks like it was partly covered up. Now I'm hoping to see the shape of a rock wall because it's supposed to have a low rock wall around it. But even spotting something like that in this mess is next to impossible. Don't ever plant wisteria, y'all, at home. Just don't do it. It's like something out of a horror movie. I can't see, but I'm 5 foot ahead of me. makes finding a needle in a haystack very hard. Also impossible to walk a straight line because I'm trying to walk the straight line to where the Baugh home place used to stand. Because if I literally interpret the description of where the grave was, if it's a direct line, if by across the street they meant directly across the street, again, we should be there. But we'll never find it in this mess. And if I'm good at finding old cemeteries, and I think I'm pretty good at locating them some of the time, Cecil Young, he's much better. He's found stuff that I've never even knew existed. So if he can't find it, and the both of us can't find it, I don't know. A fella just don't know. We're getting really close to the road now. And I keep holding out hope that at the next moment I'll see something and say, that's it. There it is. But I'm beginning to lose faith that that next moment is even going to come. 3 people are buried out here and lost in these woods. And I think that's really sad, honestly, because out of all of the forgotten graves that I've seen, one that's completely forgotten and impossible to locate, it's a sad, sad day for that. So we've just walked pretty much a straight line from where the Baugh shop was supposed to be, which I'm gonna assume was in this general area. I'm on a power line right of way right now. So the Baugh shop was right here. I'm assuming where I'm standing, if it's, you would think a shop would be pretty close to the road. And Baugh home place was right across the street. I feel like we've gone too far. We're obviously out of the Wisteria Acre. That's a new name for it. You know, it was the fenced acre. Now it's the Wisteria Nightmare Acre. It's that one right there. There are very poor directions to this cemetery that were written in the 1970s that describe it as being only 5 yards off the road. If that's the case, this would be a great place for it. But I doubt those directions because the mileage is wrong. It describes it as being 3.1 miles down the road, whereas the actual location of it, per the witnesses that saw it and wrote about it, should be about 4 miles down the road. So did they get it right about it only being 5 yards off the road? I don't know. 5 yards off the road would put it about here, but walking up a hill behind where the shop was would not put it here. Two different narratives. And honestly, I trust the Rockaway author a little bit more. I don't know. And here is exactly why it can be dangerous looking for old cemeteries. So this is in the fenced acre. We've got this old well. This was an old hand-dug well. Looks like it was kind of a squared well. It was later sleeved. Look at the wisteria over it. Look at this, something I'd never do, but without wisteria holding me up. Stand over the creepy old well. Looks like it's filled in. Or not filled in, but dried up. But that is always something you need to look out for when exploring these old places. And you never want to cover one up with plywood or something like that, because then you just build a booby trap for somebody. And so in this fenced acres where the store and post office was. And it looks like from the aerial photography in the 1950s that there was later a home here. Whether the store and post office had been converted to a home, we don't know. But there's obviously was home here. Whether it was another building that was built where the store and post office used later. Lots of foundation stones scattered throughout here. Pretty interesting.